Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. This week we have a very special guest, Mack, the man of the Traction Sports Complex off of Burbank and Gardere. If you've been in that area, you know it. You've either watched a sporting event there, you've been trained there, whatever it may be. We sit down with Mack to hear about the 18-year history of their existence here in Baton Rouge and their expansion into Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We talk all about partnerships, connections, community building, team growing, and a whole bunch of other things. So stay tuned to this great episode. Before we get to that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout out and thank you to the folks that we partner with in the community that bring you this show each and every week. Falia Real Estate, Lake Men's Health Center, and you know our apparel partner, Genteel. Now, enjoy the show. So, Traction, baseball, sports complex. Where did you come up with this? How did we get here?
So, my childhood, I was a highly touted baseball/football player. And the way the story goes is I got injured. I wasn't big enough really for football, right? So I was a very good football player, but I'm 5'11", 185 pounds. This is before the Drew Brees days, right?
Right.
Guys. And so I went, I kind of went my senior year in high school. I went full on baseball. I stopped playing football because I was being recruited. And then I tore up my right arm because I was a pitcher, quarterback, shortstop. Tore up my arm pretty good. Ended up still getting a scholarship to Nicholls State University. Was a medical redshirt my first year. And during that process, I just learned, all the doctors and therapists and all just told me everything I did wrong. That led me to that moment, okay. I was bench pressing in the backyard and doing curls because that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing, right? And I threw everything as hard as I could because I could. I was trying to show off all the time, and I kind of learned, through that process. So then I kind of, I knew I had to be involved with sports. And, my options were, do I coach sports? Am I a physical therapist that helps rehabilitate injuries like I'm going through right now? Or am I more of a strength and conditioning guy that teaches kids everything that I'm learning right now? Should have been doing this, should have been doing that. You wouldn't, if you're going to throw like that, you got to do this, So I decided to go that route. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to train athletes not to get injured and not to do this. And I ended up getting blessed and getting an internship with a guy named Mack in New Orleans, who at the time was kind of the pioneer of sports performance training. He was world renowned. I got to train, like I always tell people, I trained Venus and Serena Williams when they were young. And
really?
Roy Jones Jr. when he was the world champion boxer, and a lot of Major League Baseball players and NBA guys and NFL guys. And I got to be around that environment, and I just fell in love with it. And, did that for a few years with him. He was writing books and doing podcasts, and, before there was all these podcasts and stuff. And he was older, right? And, he was kind of, moving away from it. And then I got an opportunity to come to Baton Rouge. I was training, and you probably might have had him on the show before. I was training a girl by the name of Shelley Ripple, who was an Olympic swimmer. Mm-hmm. Her dad is Steve Ripple, who is a guy that owns Crawfish Aquatics and Dr. Ripple,
yeah.
Right? So he reached out to me. I was in New Orleans to come. He was opening a big sports performance facility here in Baton Rouge called Cap Elite that was off of Bluebonnet, where Crawfish Aquatics is, in the Jimmy Swaggart facility over there. And I had been training his daughter, so, hey, man, I got this. You can come do your own thing here or whatever. So I moved from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to run that. Did that for a couple years. It wasn't the same environment that I had left. And it helped me to really learn the business side of it, right? Because when I was in New Orleans, I was working for a world-renowned trainer and being assigned these athletes and all of that. But I didn't have to go out and get the athletes myself, and I didn't have to market myself because Mackey was, already,
you had the business coming in. You were just managing it as it came in.
And then so when I came up here to work for him, it was, hey, man, we got to go out and get these kids to train and this. So I learned a lot about it. And then I realized, it was kind of like, hey, when I was working for Mackey, I was like, man, I I would do things this way. And then when I was here, it was like, hey, I think we should do things this way. But Steve Ripple was the owner and he wanted things done another way. And it, it just gets to the point where you're like, man, I know it. I've been doing this long enough now that I know it needs to be done. And if, the only way that I'm going to be able to do it is if I do it myself.
Right.
And then that's when I decided in 2006 to open Traction. And, it started out and, I always say it was, you ask, what do I tell a young guy? It was, hey, I need to get my own facility. I don't have any money for it. How do I do it? Right. I got to sign a personal guarantee lease and I got to know how much money it's going to cost me in overhead. And the only money that I'm going to make is whatever money's left over after I pay everything. So you got to know that, you're not going to make a lot of money in the beginning and you got to make that sacrifice. And man, I signed a 7-year lease on a build to suit, found a piece of land, said, this is the area I want to be, build this 7,000 square foot, building. And I'm going to put in a little turf and a weight room. And, I'm going to take on a loan to get all the equipment. I had a personal guarantee on a building, a loan on equipment, and then it was like, okay, well, who works there? Well, just me. Right. So
I found some cheap labor. It's known as myself.
I'm the front desk person. I'm the janitor. I'm the marketer. I'm the coach. Right. And that's how it all started, man. And, we kind of grew from there. And, I had years of experience training. So I knew, what I needed to do to get clients and stuff. And then, I started getting, because I had such experience training high-level athletes, I started to draw in a lot of like the LSU guys and the former LSU guys and things like that. And, to open that facility in basically August of 2007 and just grew and grew. And then, I started training guys like Ryan Theriot and Mike Fontenot and Reed Brignac. And then when Theriot retired in 2012, he asked to become a partner with me in Traction. He became a partner in 12, and in 15, we had outgrown our location and moved to the Burbank location and took over Ainsworth facility and Marucci's facility at Burbank. And we moved from a 7,000 square foot building to a 9,500 square foot building. We had 2,500 in the back that wasn't ours when that building was built. Expanded it at. Then we moved to Burbank, which was 10 acres, on Burbank. And then in 2017, we took over the Gardere complex, which was another 35 acres.
Yeah, I was about to say. So the first location was not the Burbank one.
No, we were on Opportunity Avenue, kind of across from the State Fairgrounds off of Airline Highway.
So a big location change for you.
Yeah, yep. And I was here. See, Theriot was much more familiar with Baton Rouge. When I originally built Traction, my mindset was, okay, high school kids. Right. Okay. Where do I want to be in Baton Rouge? And at that time, I looked at it as, okay, you got Woodlawns, a 5A school. You got St. Michael's. You got Parkview. You got Dutchtown, EA, Sanoma, all right here. I should be right in the middle of all of that. Mm-hmm. So that's when I originally built my location. But Theriot was much more familiar with that side of town. And when Kurt and them, Kurt was, it's kind of like two businesses making strategic moves that help Kurt, and then we're kind of in the baseball performance business, kind of a competitor of ours.
Right.
And he, they realize that when you have to cut kids or you're playing against other kids and you're trying to get everybody to swing Marucci bats and wear Marucci gear and use gloves, that it wasn't good for business. So I met with Kurt and he said, hey, man, I have this complex. I know you guys are growing. Why don't you come take this over? We want to get out of it. We just want to be an apparel company, and then we'll be a sponsor for you guys. And so we took over that in 15, kind of remodeled that whole thing, started adding baseball fields. We had 4 fields at that time. And then Pepper Rutland and the guys that own MMR owned Cypress Mounds, which he built for the community of Baton Rouge for baseball. But, he has a $1 billion electrical contracting company. That was just something that he did.
It was a passion project.
Yeah, it was a passion project. And my wife actually worked at MMR at the time. So I spent a lot of time with Pepper, and he is one of my mentors that I still lean on to this day. And he asked me in 17 to take over managing and operating it. So we took over that in 17 and, invested a bunch of money to redo all the fields and build out all the stuff. And that kind of is the 45-acre complex that you see today. 2020, the COVID year, we opened a new facility in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So we have a second location there, a big, beautiful location that's partnered with the Hattiesburg Clinic, brand new facility, beautiful there. And then as of October of last year, I sold 40% of Traction to Our Lady of the Lake.
Okay, I was about to get into that. Yeah,
and now officially moving into 24, we're partnered with the Lake on Traction, the brand, Traction in the Lake, and we have a lot of plans moving forward with their contract with LSU and things like that we're going to do, that we're working on moving forward. So that's kind of how it went, man. Like I said, it was, I know every job because I did every job. And it wasn't, it
was a necessity.
Yeah, it was, look, I trained everybody. When people walked in to ask questions, I walked to the front and I answered the phone. I did the payroll, and just as we grew, I added a second trainer, I added a front desk worker, I added somebody to clean the place. I added, and it's just kind of grown that way to the point where now, we have, I got, PT directors and food and beverage, like when we started doing all these events and stuff, like I didn't know how to do concession sales or nothing like that. So it was, I have to bring in guys that are experts. You got to hire people who are experts in those industries to make them part of your team. Cause now we have, our food and beverage side of our business is every bit as, cumbersome as any restaurant in Baton Rouge. We're doing, we got to serve, thousands of people every weekend, for
these
got a
big
events.
Crowd, right?
Yeah. So it's, you kind of learn how to do things by necessity. You don't really, like I started off training athletes, and then because I'm training all of these baseball players, parents and all, like, hey, well, do you teach kids how to pitch? Do you teach kids how to hit? And it was like, yeah, we can do that. And we started doing that. And it's like, man, you should have teams. And then we kind of build this academy, and then in order to practice these teams, we have to build fields. And then you build in fields, and the teams, go play. And then we have these fields, and it's like, well, why don't we have leagues for the kids? There's no real great leagues in Baton Rouge. So we start developing leagues, and it's just all these things happen over time. And what I've always said is we kind of just identify a need. Like, where is there a need to help develop youth athletes in our city? And then how do we fill that need? What do we do? And people ask us why you don't do this sport, why you don't do that sport. And I always answer, the reason we don't is because we don't feel there's a need. We do feel that there's someone else in the community that's doing a great job doing that sport, or teaching, soccer or, volleyball or something like that, basketball, because if we felt, hey man, the kids of our community aren't being developed here, that's what we're always looking at. Where can we, help the community? So it's, we're constantly evolving.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
Which I always think is important in any business. See, I tell people all the time, where our business started in 2007 to where it is in, starting 2025 is night and day.
Oh yeah.
I say all the time, we trained so many high school athletes when I first started. We had athletes from every school in Baton Rouge, and now in 2025, we had, the turf fields and the beautiful weight room and, all the expertise. And then now in 2025, every high school has turf fields now. They're all building beautiful weight rooms, some of them even have their own strength and conditioning staff, in 2025. So for us, it's, reinventing that wheel and, hey, we're not going to get as many high school kids. Let's look at the kids that don't have access to those things at their school. And those are the kids that we're working with. We train a lot of female athletes, right? Female athletes, if you have one big weight room at a high school, well, football's got 100 kids, so they take up the majority of the time in the weight room. You try to figure it out. Some schools have been able to figure out how to do athletic PEs and things like that to be able to cycle kids more. But, when you only have 3 to 7 o'clock at night, how are you going to funnel 1,000 kids that play sports at some of these schools? So, we've been able to, we work with a lot of female athletes. So we actually go out to schools now. Our expertise, we go out and train. We do all the strength conditioning at Dunham High School.
Okay.
Right. So we have a lot of, individual teams from Parkview or St. Joseph or the lab school or Park, so it's constantly evolving, what we're doing. And, we've moved around, we host these big events on weekends that are big for the community, not just us. We get teams that come in from all over the country that stay in the hotels in Baton Rouge, that eat at the restaurants, that go play Top Golf. So it's a economy, an economic impact in the city as well. And certain groups like Visit BR and all have stepped up to help us even grow these events bigger that are going to help this city, which is always our goal, is to help the kids in our community.
Yeah. So when y'all moved to Burbank and you were just doing training and conditioning, did you ever think that you'd be essentially a staple for travelers coming to Baton Rouge?
No, it was never the intention. We were able at a time to bring in guys around the country to train for like the NFL Combine and things like that. So we got some publicity doing that, when we started doing the kids and things like that, we never realized that it would grow to where it is now, where it is a staple, attraction. Everybody knows, the place, and they play, baseball over there and flag football. And, we have, 1,500 kids that play in our baseball league. Wow. We have 1,000 kids that play flag football. Our facility from a schedule standpoint is filled Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's half the year. The fall slows down a little bit. But that January through July, basically, it's filled every night. So we have to turn over the facility every night. Right. We got, guys that have to come clean overnight, and things like
That's
that
insane.
To flip it, so it's a bigger business than people understand. A lot of people think that, we just, do baseball games or train. It's like, no, man, there's a lot that goes into, organizing and making sure that every time people show up that it's a great experience. I mean, we have to hire, police detail because of traffic in the city to get people in and out the parking lots. On league nights and things like that. And if you've been there before, you'll see it. It's, obviously we all drive around Baton Rouge. So when you're hosting a 5:30 game on Thursday night with 1,000 people showing up to one place, it gets very packed. And then it backs up Burbank and backs up Gardere and, and so we've said, hey, in order to help that, we're going to have, police detail stopping and moving and getting people out the parking lot. So, because we always say, hey, the number one complaints we face are things like, I was stuck in a parking lot for this long, or, and it's, as a business owner, you wish it was just about making the kid better or training the athlete, but it's a lot more than that.
That's your trainers and your coaches' responsibility.
That's right.
Your responsibility is figuring out how do we fit all these cars in this parking
everywhere.
lot.
Yeah. Because people will say, hey, you know what, I get this question all the time, man, y'all are so packed that y'all going to build more fields. And I always have to say, well, here's the issue. Like, if we build one more field, right, then that's 2 more teams playing with all their parents, and then 2 more teams waiting to play with all their parents. Now we have to add a parking lot, right? Where are we going to add the parking lot? So people don't realize the whole infrastructure to adding that. Like, we already, yes, we have plenty of space to add another field if we wanted to, and we could do more games. But now we're talking about even more problems, with parking and traffic. So we always have to be mindful of things like that. And then, hey, we can't run games too late because it's school nights, right? So we try to end everything, get everybody home and out of here. Parking lot's empty by 9 p.m. Right. Because it's school nights, and when we do schedules, it's like, hey, the younger ones play earlier, so it's there's a lot that goes into strategic thinking. That is my job. I mean, my job is clearly the visionary of traction and how we do what we do, what it looks like. And then my team is basically, hey, let's go out and execute. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't, right? And you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how we need to fix it. How do we get better? And that's just a constant thing over and over again.
Are you able to put multi-level parking there?
Could, but you have to charge for it.
You have to?
Well, in order to pay for it, you would.
Okay.
So look, these are one of the conversations that we've had with the lake. So the lake, at their campuses,
they always have multi-level
parking, right? But they found, you got to charge a couple bucks, in order, it's a lot of concrete and it's very, very expensive. So look, you're nailing it on the head.
You can do it. It's just
you can do it. You can do anything. I tell people you can do anything, but it's, as the CEO, right? It's, what is your ROI on it? How do you use it? How do you utilize it? Like, so for example, our leagues, we're a little bit more expensive than other people to play in our leagues, but that's because we love our culture so much that we don't want to charge any kind of gate or anything. We want
which is great because
we want grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever to come show up at the game. So, if you go to any high school game or you go watch your kid play at, St. George or, and there's always going to be $5 here or kids get in free. But for us, it was like, hey, I'd rather charge a little bit more up front and allow, everybody to come because it creates such a culture on these league nights. We have T-ball to 5 and 6 year olds to, kids pitch where, but I mean, it creates such an environment of fun that we didn't want to have gate and things for league nights, so these are things that people don't understand. And there's a lot of thinking and process that goes into, setting those kind of things up.
Right. Because then you open up the doors for anybody to come and they can watch whomever they want. If you've got siblings that have different parents that are in different leagues and they can all come and kind of watch it. You don't have to worry about, nope, your $5 gets you into this game, but not this game. And
that's right.
The logistics headaches that can create, you just eliminate it.
We open up all the gates so you can park. If you know what field you're playing at, you can. It's a big campus, right? We said 45 acres.
Campus,
right? So, it allows us not to have, 8 gate workers, right? Because, hey, you can park if you know you're playing on the field all the way on the back left of the facility. You can park and go in the gates over there. Whereas as far as our tournament events, which do have gate because these are teams from everywhere or whatever, and it's not, now they all have to funnel through the main entrance and gate, and those are our weekend tournament events. So it's a totally different setup, and we have to be able to efficiently do both of them. So it's the leagues are for our community. The tournaments are national kind of events, we're partnered with Perfect Game, right? So there's a way that we have to run those events in the branding of Perfect Game. So just different things that we do that, we have to sit down and week in and week out, good, bad, ugly. Here are our new operations. Here are our old operations. Look, one of the questions you asked me earlier, cash or card, right? Well, we did cash forever and ever. Like last year we made the decision that we're absolutely cashless at the park.
That's good.
That simplifies everything, and you get into where, okay, now we're paying all of these fees and credit card fees and things like that. But you realize from an efficiency standpoint and how much time you spend counting money and how much time you got to go to the bank and back and you got to get change and you got to get when you start weighing all those things. And these are the things that, you go, okay, hey, this is much easier. But then you got to make sure, okay, well, now our Wi-Fi has to be great. So we can take credit cards all over the park at different drink stands, and things like that. So you got to make sure that, all of that infrastructure is in place. And, we get bad weather and things blow down and, so
we're going back to cash tonight.
Yeah, it's just, it's fun, right? I tell people, yes, it's tough, but, it's such a fun and rewarding, thing that we do over there.
Right, and you're doing something so great for the kids.
Absolutely.
And they're able to have that team mentality from a young age and really learn how to play the sport well. And some of the games, I've been to quite a few games over there, and they've had some of the parents get into it a little bit more than the kids.
Way too much.
Way too much.
Way too much, yes.
I've had to look at somebody and say, hey, they're 5 years old.
That's
Let's tone it down a little bit.
Tone it
Okay,
down.
you know, there shouldn't be any money on this game.
That's right.
So let's just take it back and let the kids have fun. You know, yeah. If there's a kid doing cartwheels to first base, that's okay.
Yeah, you'll see yes, parents will always, and that's every sport.
Oh,
you know, it's, people get excited, man. People are passionate about their kids, which is one of the reasons I say, our industry, everybody asks us, recession proof, COVID, this and that. And then I'm like, you know what? The good news about what we do is parents will give up a lot before they give up their kids' sports and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the passion that parents have about their kids playing sports, which goes back to the question, this city is very passionate about it. You see it, just walk around on a Friday night at our leagues, there's 6-year-old dads that are so nervous when their kid's up, in a game that is meaningless, right? That the kid only cares about, being out there with his buddies and where they're going to go eat afterwards, or they're going to run around. And, but it's such a culture that it's so fun. The excitement, the screaming, the thing, it just creates an energy, man, that's unparalleled, and that's what we strive for, is create that environment, competitive but fun.
Right.
We always say, hey, our goal is to create a fun, competitive, and safe environment for kids, parents.
This episode of the Patty G Show is sponsored by Genteel Apparel. Genteel Apparel is our newest clothing outfitter. We've got a great partnership with them. Head on over to the website, pattygshow.com/sponsors, to learn a little bit more about them, and there's a little treat there for you when you get there. Again, this episode is brought to you by Genteel Apparel.
When we designed Traction, my mindset was always around, how can we provide the youth the same resources that the college athlete or the professional athlete gets, right? So the professional athlete has, strength coaches, athletic trainers, PTs. They got position coaches and coaches. They learn the game. They got, the best playing surfaces. They got, nutritionists, So, for me it was, okay, let's provide that to everybody. So Traction has the best sports therapists, performance trainers and athletic trainers. We got the best sports playing surfaces, the safest that you can play on. We got, paid coaches, and, and that's, to help develop these kids. And that's what we're trying to do is, hey, a lot of us grew up without the resources. Every kid, should have the same ability or the same opportunity to play at whatever level that is. That could be, I just want to make my high school team. I just want to make my middle school team, so I want to play low-level college or high-level, maybe want to play professional. Every kid's going to be different, but hey, can we provide them every resource that when they're done, they feel like they had every opportunity to get as good as they wanted to be or enjoy that experience? Because I always say, my life and where I am is purely due to sports. Sports brought me to places that I never would have been able to go on my own. I was a public school kid. Mother passed away when I was young, raised without a father. Sports is what gave me that family feel. Went to church with other families, saw different experiences that I had, how to work as a team, things you just alluded to, and really put a perspective of goals. And it wasn't truly sports goals. It was, hey man, I was around these other families. I wish my family was like this. I wish,
Right.
My life was like this. I wish, to where now you have these goals that you strive for, and bringing all of these people together and doing this through a sports outlet, I think is motivating and can encourage a lot of kids that may not have the best home life or may not have the amount of money as somebody else or whatever that may be, that they can, see and see things that they normally wouldn't see that can bring them to wherever that brings them in life.
Yeah, they can see a different perspective
100%.
and realize that there's options out there.
100%.
For whatever their situation is, they can see and get exposed to a variety of things on either side and be able to say, this is a different way of doing things. Let me explore that,
And it's kids mentoring other kids. It's coaches. You wouldn't believe the impact that, we train so many kids where a dad will bring a son. Let's just say he brings, 13-year-old Timmy to come train, okay? And Timmy has never trained before. He's not very strong. He's not very fast. But he's training next to 14-year-old Johnny, who's been training at Traction for a year. And he goes in there and, he starts to train next to him, and he sees what this kid is doing. And, man, this kid, he's watching him every day. And it's amazing how 4 weeks later, little Timmy is now picking up on doing it, and he's looking up to Johnny. And then the next little Timmy signs up to come train, and now he's looking up, and just the demeanor and the confidence changes in the kid. His whole personality changes, and it happens all the time. This happens on our baseball teams that we have for being around other kids. This happens in our training programs. It happens when you see young freshmen training with their juniors and seniors just on a team. What it does to their personalities and confidence, to be in that environment, to train in that environment, to see results, to physically get stronger, to, get faster, to hit the ball better, to have, learn how to deal with failure, learn how to deal with success. You have moments in sports where you're going to be extremely successful, you're going to win, you're going to lose. How do you deal with all that? I just think all of those things are daily in our lives, right? Every day. I mean, you and I'm sure we have successes on days and we have failures on days, and it's something that you have to learn to deal with. And I just think sports and training and all of those things, if you have the discipline to do those on a day, if you can handle that on a daily basis, you can handle anything.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have, after your sports is long gone, you're still going to have to deal with wins and losses, and multiple wins and losses in a given day.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get hit with the walls of defeat and failure, and you've got to figure out a way, how do I overcome this? And through sports, if you have a losing season and you never win a single game, you've got to overcome something.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out, how do I change, or how do I go about the game the next time to try and win?
Yeah, look, even today, right? We have bad days at work.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Things go wrong. You plan things and they don't go right, and it gives you that same feeling that you had when you lost that game in high school, that crushing, defeated feeling, and you have to learn to say, okay, what do I need to do to get better? What did I do today? What do I change tomorrow to change that outcome? And it's the same thing. I deal with it every day at work, right, that I did playing sports, and I try to teach it to my son and my daughter. Now they don't listen to dad, right? It doesn't matter, all the expertise in the world, and I can speak for, coaches all over the planet. You're just dad to them.
Absolutely.
If it came from, Ryan Terrio, my partner, my son would think it was gold. But you try to teach it to your kids, like, hey man, like, I'm not doing this specifically for you to be an athlete. I'm doing this as it's going to make you a better person and a better man, a better woman, and help you be stronger in where we are today, where it's tough, man. Life isn't, I don't think it's getting easier for our kids. I think it's getting harder emotionally, for sure.
They're not going to have an easy path regardless of where they're at. It's going to get tougher, and you've got to figure out how to overcome, your adversity and your problems and your challenges you're going to face, because you're going to face them.
That's right.
And it's a matter of how you go about resolving them and overcoming them that'll ultimately determine where you're going to go.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So I want to talk about the partnership that you have.
Yeah.
So you said you sold 40%, and what went into that? How did you go about selecting them, and kind of what made that be a thing?
So basically we've seen these kind of partnerships happen around the country. Like I said, performance, the full medical care of the athlete. So for example, athlete A is going to train to prepare to get better for their sport. Athlete A normally has, some, is going to deal with some kind of injury or something like that, where they're going to have to go see their doctor. How do you deal with that injury? How do you rehab that injury? How do you get back on the playing field? So this full circle of care. We've always had a great relationship with Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. We are 50-50 partners on our physical therapy clinic with Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic is partnered with Our Lady of the Lake in a bunch of endeavors. So it was kind of always this three-way circle that we were discussing, how to work together and things like that. And we just knew, based off of where the lake wanted to go and their vision and what they want to do to build sports medicine in this community. And we've been doing it here for 18 years. So it was kind of like, hey, us together will be, much stronger. So we had a lot of conversation about what that vision looks like, what we can do together in the future. And with our relationship with all of the orthopedic doctors at Brock and now, the Lake, with all of their resources, and they're way outside of just sports at the Lake, which is important to us as well. Pediatric care, that children's hospital is phenomenal. When we walked around and visited there, with all of the kids we work with, we were blown away, and we like, hey man, this is an incredible group for us to work with our vision. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Dealing with companies like that is a lot of red tape, so it took a lot longer. I'm so used to being able to fly.
They can't pivot as quickly as you can, man.
I'm used to flying by the seat of my pants, so it's good for me too because I've learned how to deal with the red tape and the politics that go along with these type of things. So it's been a great learning experience for me. Look, we're always learning. But look, we're super excited about our partnership with the Lake, and we're super excited about the future in Baton Rouge and all the different ideas and thoughts that we have. Now, look, they're going to take longer than I would like, right? Just because of all the red tape. But I'm very pushy on them as well to get things done. So, look, they wanted to get involved with us because of our vision and what we're doing for the community. And they are so involved in the community and so involved with the health of the community. Their whole goal is how to keep our city healthy. Our goal was how to keep our kids healthy. Children's Hospital was designed to help, children that are sick or whatever. So how can we together, keep the people of our city really healthy? And that's kind of the ultimate goal with this partnership. And so there'll be a lot of new programs. They have a lot of resources that we need and dietitians and things like that can help, mental performance. Katie O'Neill is the, sports medicine director for the SEC, which is huge for us during COVID. She was able to guide us tremendously on all of our protocols and things like that. That was a big part of, hey, how do you handle these situations? How do we handle? They're helping us with, because of the volume of people on our campuses, our EAP, which is our emergency action plan, when athlete A gets hurt, or how fast do we get them here and here? So all of that stuff is being organized, which we really needed on our end. So there's a lot of things like that are just not about money. It isn't going to help us make any money. But it's going to help us be able to better serve the community and how to, when things do happen, what are our steps? If we got a family that, a kid that's having some issues, how do we make sure they see the right person? How do they go? How does our network look? How do we, have athletes that can fill out surveys that we can get, identify any risk factors early, and things like that. So it's a big master plan for us to be able to keep these kids healthy, man.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out, Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
Yeah, it's taking them, because they're playing sports at such a young age. You want to make sure they can play it for as long and as safely as they can.
That's right.
And so partnering up with a health partner just kind of makes sense.
And it's so healthy for them to play, too, right? We live in such a world of iPads and iPhones that, it's such we highly encourage kids to get out and play. Whatever it is, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, pickleball, all the different things that you can play. And it's just, how can we continue to encourage that lifestyle? How do we encourage, and it starts with the family too, man. So we say, the health is, we're worried about healthy kids, but we're really about healthy families, man. Mom and dad cook dinner and they make those choices, and mom and dad go to the grocery store. And mom and dad make sure little Timmy goes to bed and gets enough sleep. So it's a lot of education as well. How can we educate these families on how to be healthy? So it's not just the resources, it's education, it's all of it, because knowledge is everything. Look, I'm still learning. Things have changed, over the years, and studies keep, showing different results and things like that. And how do you get that information? Through our network and the amount of families that come through our facility and their network, we're able to reach so many more people.
Right. And so you've almost essentially have a funnel for the entire program, where you're helping athletes from such a young age. What do you see from, a conversion rate of people playing in the youth leagues and then going on and saying in high school and college, I'm still going to train here?
Oh, a ton, man. We have a lot of lifers at Traction. We talk about kids that, have been with us since they were 9 or 10 years old that are playing college baseball. I've had, it's funny because, I've been doing this so long. So when I opened Traction, I have athletes that I trained in high school that now I train their kids.
Really?
Yeah.
You're on to the second generation.
Second generation. Yeah. And it's a little bit humbling for me because it's showing how old I am now. But I have a bunch of kids that, when I opened Traction in 2007 and I was training kids that were at Catholic or Woodlawn that were, 15, 16 years old. I mean, you fast forward to 2025. I mean, those guys are 30 years old.
Right.
And they're calling me like, hey, man, my son's, 7 or 8 and he wants to get, and I'm like, man, you got a 7 or 8 year old son. Like, what the, it's crazy, and it's, so yeah, I've now been doing this long enough that I'm dealing with second generation, athletes and kids, man. It's incredible. It's such a great feeling. People always say, being in business, there's no ending to the game. It's how long can you do it?
Right.
Right. And it's, you win by how long, we're in our 18th year, at Traction. If you would have asked me 18 years ago, I'd have never thought I'd still be doing this long. And, I tell people all the time, as I have a 7th grade son and I have a sophomore daughter, and, I'm definitely going to see them through their athletic careers and, and hopefully grow this as much as I can over the next however many years that we continue to do it. And, but yeah, second generation. If it gets third generation, I might have to shut it down.
Or at least finish selling out.
Maybe my kids will be old enough to do it then. Yeah,
your kids take over.
That's right.
But it is such a testament to the success and the power of the culture that you've built at Traction to have that second generation coming. If you were saying, oh, no, we don't see any second generations, that's more concerning. Because then their parents have gone through and said, you do not want to go to Traction. But rather they're saying, I was impacted so much by what they built over there and the support and care that they gave to me that I want my kids, my own flesh and blood, to go and actually participate in those events.
Yeah. No, and it's true, man. It's so refreshing. And I think what helps, man, is our company has gotten bigger, but we're still such a small business, meaning, those same athletes that train with me show up over there with their kids and I'm there. Mm-hmm. Right. And they're like, Mack, I'm like, dude, like, you're grown, man, and you'd be amazed at how many times I run into people and I just look at them and I'm like, I still see them as their 17-year-old self, and they're 30, right. But they, to me, they look the same kind of. I look older probably, but it's, it's such, we still have the same people, man. My staff, Brad Cressy has been with me since 2015. Tevin Moten, my head performance trainer, was an intern for me at the old facility in 2010, 2011. And these are guys that have been with us, forever. Eddie Parfait, my CFO, has been with me from the very beginning, right? So you see the same faces, man. And it is a sense of family. It's a sense of, it's not, hey, it has the name on it, but it's totally different people. No, man, it's the same people. It's the same relationships, the same family.
Which is hard to do over almost 18 years of
Absolutely.
Being in business. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to have an organization remain, from a people standpoint, the same,
Yep.
yet still evolve and not be outdated and antiquated.
That's right.
To the fact that you're keeping up with technology, you're keeping up with the vendors, whether it's food or it's outside people coming in to help and train. Like, you're keeping up with the current system, but you're not just turning over people and it's like, oh, new management's in today. It's going to run the same way it has, but have everything else you expect.
Yeah, and you'd be shocked how many athletes that we've trained over the years that are now trainers themselves, right, or coaches. We have more kids that played sports or trained at Traction that are like high school football and baseball, even college coaches, right, that are now referring athletes to us, because, hey, man, that's where I trained growing up. That's where I trained throughout high school and college and things like that. So it's such a, you know how it is, man. The longer you've been around, the more relationships you have, the more resources you have, and it's amazing, and just it's great to see, man, that you obviously influenced these people to be involved in sports as well. They obviously love sports, so they competed and played sports, but they were so that they decided that that's what they wanted to do for a living too.
Right.
So that's awesome as well.
So what made y'all open up another facility out in Mississippi?
That's a funny story, man. So, kind of similar to Lake, the doctors of the Hattiesburg Clinic came down to visit our facility. They heard about what we were doing at Traction. They wanted to see it. They spent a day walking around with myself and Ryan Terrio and Eddie, and we kind of went through it. Hey, man, we've been doing this now for, 15 years or whatever it is. Here's what we did right. Here's what we did wrong. This is why we do this. This is why we do that. So it's a big group of orthopedic doctors, and they really wanted to have that sports performance wing. They had therapy. They had the sports medicine team. They didn't have the trainers and the sports performance side of the business. And they were looking to build a new facility. Well, we met with them all day, man. Really liked them. Showed them, hey, this is what you do. Look, I always tell people we don't compete with anybody, man. We're just trying to educate. So we told them everything that we do. Here's what I would do if I was you. Here's what I wouldn't do. About 2 weeks later, the CEO of the Hattiesburg Clinic calls and says, hey, man, look, we came back. We were blown away about what you guys do. Would you guys ever consider, having a Traction here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi? And, at the time, I never even thought about it. It wasn't like part of our plan.
Yeah. You weren't looking for a second location.
No, not at all.
Especially in Hattiesburg.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about Hattiesburg. I went on one visit to Southern Miss out of high school to see if I would go play baseball there, and that was the only time I'd ever been there. So we were flattered. Well, what does that look like? They showed us all the plans of their facility, and then I said, look, I'm not going to take on, essentially, hey, a rent or anything like that. But if you guys want to partner with us, and we're true partners, and then, if we make money, we make money. If we lose money, we lose money. But, you guys are along for the ride. I can tell you how this is going to go. I've already done it, right? And they were 100% on board. They really wanted us. They wanted the partnership with Traction. So, we signed on to do it, man. And we opened in 2020. Then COVID hit. Right.
Perfect time.
Which wasn't as easy because we are on a medical campus in Hattiesburg, which is way more strict than any other place.
Yeah. Talk about red tape.
Red tape. Yep. So, it was a little slow at the beginning, but we still did well, man. And now, we're going into 2025. We got a great guy by the name of Perry Turner, who is our director there that runs that facility. And it's doing great, man. And our partnership with them is great, which was also a little bit, that partnership is also what led us to, really pursue the partnership with the Lake here, because we saw how well that worked together. How many referrals, how easy it is for an athlete to, that had a knee surgery or whatever, and they need to get over here. Or we have an athlete that, might have COVID. Where do I go? And you'd be shocked at how, the 20-year-old or 17-year-old doesn't know where they should go, even with illnesses like that, and now we saw how easily that worked, man. And it's really grown a lot, over there. I spent a lot of time in Hattiesburg in the beginning, making sure that everything, but now, and my guy Perry there does such a great job that I'm there once a quarter.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just checking in.
And when I do check in, I almost feel like, I'm micromanaging too much. It's the weirdest feeling, but it's, you know, because he does such a good job that I don't, you know, I want to, hey man, this is your show to run. I can't be here all the time. I'm not going to come over here and act like I can be here all the time. I'm in Baton Rouge, you know, that's my home, but it's doing great, man. And that location has really kicked butt, and, you know, still trying to implement a lot of it doesn't have all the fields and stuff that we have here. Okay. It's a big, beautiful facility, but that's something we're working on. We started, you know, some flag football leagues this past year that are doing well, and you know, so we're looking at how do we get those things off the ground there, you know. But it's much like here. They have programs that are good there for some of those things, and we train a lot of those athletes, and it's just, hey, what can we do to make that community better, you know? And I kind of leave that up to Perry because it's his community, right?
Yeah.
He knows.
What do they need?
Yes. What do they need? I know, you know, the needs here in Baton Rouge. I live in this community. My kids go to school here. He knows better that community, and his kids. He has 2 young ones that are, you know, very young right now. But as they get into school, he's going to realize, you know, the different things and the needs that they have in the community. And like I said, you just got to be patient, man. In business, you know, crawl before you walk before you run, you know, and grow it that way instead of, you know, high risk, high reward, man. I'm more of a, you know, be conservative, man.
It's a controlled level of growth to make sure nothing's missed.
That's right.
If you were to go and say, we're going to build another 45-acre facility out there in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and do everything, so opening day, we're going to operate just as if we did here, there's going to be stuff that falls through.
100%.
It's such a giant piece of property for what you do that you can't just all of a sudden open it all up and say we're up and running fully, everything works flawlessly. Like it would then take you so many months of just trial runs before you got to the point where you could confidently say we're running well. Yeah,
it's not that easy. It like goes back to being an athlete, man. It's discipline. You know, I am a very disciplined. There are many, many things that I would love to have and love to do. But sometimes it doesn't make sense. Financially, it doesn't make sense. You know, it's like the analogy I used earlier. I would love to have, 20 baseball fields and double the amount of kids in our league. But then it's like, okay, well, how do we do it? And all right, and he's okay, if I go build these 9 fields and, then I got to build lights and then I got to build parking and then I got to build, and this is what it costs. And then the only way to be able to do that is to drive these prices up, but that isn't what the market's willing to pay. It's like you got to really know these things. You can't, you really have to have a vision. You have to be super disciplined. I would say like part of being an athlete is I got to get sleep. I got to fuel up to play. I got to practice. I got to do, you got to have that same discipline in business. You got to be willing to make these sacrifices and stay disciplined to what your business plan is. And if it doesn't work, don't be so emotionally attached to it that you do it. Because I think that I would say a lot of the businesses fail because of their emotional attachment to them. We all want to do the thing that we love, and that's important, but you got to do it with discipline as well.
Yeah, that's when it comes to business, for the most part, you got to pull emotion out of it.
That's right.
And you got to say, from a business strategic standpoint, is this the right move?
Yep.
Yes, we have the space, we have the capacity, but will it operate and function to what we know we can do?
Yeah.
Or we're going to have something fall short. And then when that falls short, we lose customers.
How does one decision affect the next decision and the next decision? And it's be extremely disciplined in your practices. Right. I'm a very wake up at this time of day. I know what meals I'm eating during the day, what time. I know what my meetings look like. I know how to separate my business and personal. My family comes first, even over the business. Like I said, I was a child without a father. Mother passed away. So as a father now, I am, hey man, I'm going to be at my kids' sports. I'm going to be at, that's going to come first over everything else. I'm still going to work my tail off, and I'm never off, right? And right. If you're a business owner, you're never off. But I am able to, separate the two. But when I am at work, like that's why I love the summertime. It's chaos for me because my kids are off and they got sports all day. But when they're at school, and they have sports after school and stuff, hey, I'm focused on the business and what I need to do for the Traction family. And then, when they get home from their sports and it's family time, it's family time. But, I get to bed early. Like you asked me, am I a morning person or a night person? I'm a morning person. I'm up 5:30 in the morning. I make sure that I get my workout in. I make sure that I eat healthy. I make sure that my kids have everything they need for school. And then I'm, disciplined that, hey, I eat lunch at this time. I hydrate. I do these things. And it's the same way with my business. I make sure financially we're doing well. I'm making sure that each program follows certain formulas for success. And, if this certain program isn't working, then you got to, as much as you may love it, you may have to cut that program or cut that idea. And sometimes we have ideas that we're super passionate about and we realize they just don't work, and you just got to move on to the things that do work, that do have an impact.
Yeah, and focus on those and make it your goal and put all your energy into it.
That's right. That's right.
As we kind of start to wind down the show, we have a set list of questions we ask every guest.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
Something that I did as a kid that I wish I could still do today. Man, eat as much food as I did when I was a kid. I love food. I love to eat, I'm the guy that looks at the clock all day. When can I eat again? When can I eat again? I'm a sweet tooth guy. I love like cakes and cookies. And, I grew up eating like cookies and milk or like ice cream with chocolate syrup on them almost every night, like before bed.
Oh, yeah.
And, in my profession, I can't do that anymore, So, yeah, one thing I did as a kid, if I could eat dessert every night before bed, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, now they see you walk in with a plate of Oreos and milk. They're like, what are you doing, Mac?
Exactly.
Like, you're over here teaching us dieting and actual
discipline
proper
and
discipline
all these
eating.
things,
And what is this?
And trust me, I still do it every now and then. But it's few and far between.
I live the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah,
80% you're healthy, 20% you have a little leeway.
That's right. My weakness is, like chips and queso, a margarita here and there, and a piece of cheesecake. That's my weaknesses.
Yeah. Yes, we all have those little outbursts of joy every now
That's
and
right.
again.
That's right.
So you've been doing this for quite a long time, running your own facility for 18 years. What are 3 lessons you've learned along the way?
3 lessons I've learned along the way. Okay. Create a vision, have a plan, execute the plan, right? So it starts with, truly having the vision of what you're trying to do, right? And then, create a plan, not just a plan, but all right, hey, give an example. I want to build a, let's just say any kind of facility. Say I wanted to build a basketball facility, okay? Okay, what is it going to cost me to build a basketball facility? What kind of program, if I build this facility, what kind of programs am I going to have? Okay. With these programs, how much is it going to cost to play in these programs, compete in these programs? Once I have all that planned, what does that revenue look like compared to what my expense looks like? If you can't make it work, you can't build a basketball facility. I'm just using that as an example, right? And some people build, have a dream of a basketball or tennis. I'm just using sports because that's the world I'm in.
Right.
But you really have to step back and really, write these things out, pen, paper, notes on your phone, whatever it is, and make sure that and be brutally honest with yourself about these things, because it is your livelihood, and you're as much as you want to help everybody else, you have to help your family too. So you have to design it in a manner that it is going to be, you're going to work your tail off at it. When I started Traction, I tell people all the time, how much money I made was purely based on what was left over after expenses, which wasn't much.
Right.
Which was nothing. But bless my wife for carrying me the first couple years of Traction. And that's a sacrifice that we made. So yeah, man, have a vision, a clear vision, create a plan, and be brutally honest and disciplined on yourself to achieve that plan. And then as you achieve that plan, don't be afraid to, make adjustments as you go. You have to evolve. Everything evolves so quickly nowadays. You have to evolve with the times.
Absolutely.
Don't be a dinosaur.
Yeah. Keep a good team in place, but make sure the team is constantly learning and growing.
Yeah. I always say the number one phrase in my industry that I hate more than anything else is, well, this is what I did. right? Because what I did in high school is absolutely not what I want my athletes doing in 2024.
Yeah.
So it's, when you come across a coach or anybody that says, well, this is what I did, run. My advice.
Find somebody who's thinking in the now.
Yes.
Here's how we're going to progress. Here's what we're going to do from here.
Yeah, we do it. And in why, right? And I always, the first lesson that I give all of my coaches, baseball coaches, training athletes, when you ask an athlete to do something, explain to them why, right? It's kind of what we call the old John Wooden coaching style. Do this, not this, right? So we're showing you what to do, we're showing you what not to do, and then we're reiterating what to do. When you ask somebody to do something, explain to them why. It means so much more. Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this exercise? You're doing this exercise is going to help you be more explosive to hit the baseball further or to jump higher or whatever it is. So they understand why you're asking them to do it. And that goes for anybody. Anybody's, when you're doing in business, hey, why am I doing this program? And then why is very important. So I always say, there's a good bunch. I've read a lot of business books. Start with Why is a great one.
Absolutely.
That I highly recommend because it is. Why is extremely important.
Oh, yeah. What is something you love about Baton Rouge?
Culture, community. I have a love-hate relationship with Baton Rouge. I hate the traffic, right? But look, like I said, I'm a sports freak. I love everything about sports, and it's every sports. Like I was, the last, month with the Olympics was just, pure heaven for me. I've trained so many athletes that like watching the Olympics to me was like, just the coolest thing in the world. Just the atmosphere, man. I love LSU. I love the Saturday atmosphere of, I love to talk around town about LSU sports. I love how passionate people are about their kids. 6-year-old dads will go crazy at 6-year-old T-ball games. So I love that passion. And that's what I love about Baton Rouge is that kind of sports culture and that, how everybody truly is engaged and loves the sports atmosphere here.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes Traction, people ask me why Traction's so successful. And I always say it's purely because of where it is. Mm-hmm. I can do this exact same thing in another city and it would fail.
Yeah. It's the people that have the passion behind it.
100%.
That want to see it through.
Everybody aspires for their kids to run out in that purple and gold in this city, and most of us won't, right? But our kids all look up to those athletes, and it's in every sport, and they have such a good program that trickles all the way down through youth sports here.
Absolutely. So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
Man, just keep doing what you're doing, man. I love being able to tell the story. People don't always get to hear the background of how these things, not just our business, but any business. And I think it is important for the people of the community to know, hey, man, this isn't just, we don't just roll the ball out there and say play and make money. It's, there's a lot that goes into it. We spend a lot of money on the back end to make these things happen. Look, a 45-acre complex with elite sports surfaces and staff and coaching is very, very expensive. And it's very, very hard to keep up and operationally. So, what you guys do to bring guys on here, gals on here to explain, how they grew their companies, why they do what they do is important to show other young entrepreneurs, hey, man, this is important. And I believe in, I believe in freedom. You said, hey, well, what are the things that are important to you? Family, freedom, man, just, nothing is as rewarding as having a vision and seeing it come to fruition. Right. So, man, what you guys do is fantastic, man. And, what you can do for me, man, is just keep doing what you're doing. And when people ask, about Mack or about Traction, say, hey, I met those guys. I interviewed those guys. I know all about them. They do a great job for our community.
Yeah, which is true. And I've been a visitor of the facility, and I've been there and watched many a games. And it's really great what y'all have going on over there. And I love what y'all are building.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate being here. This is an awesome setup. I had never been here before, man. This place is awesome.
The technology park?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal facility, man.
It is. When I walked in, I said, wow, man. You learn, look, Baton Rouge is like that, man. That's another thing. You're bringing a lot of awareness to, I'm sure businesses and places that people don't even know are here. If you don't live in certain areas, you don't know. And like this, I didn't know this was here. This place is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's through the show. I've met some phenomenal people with phenomenal companies. And I'm like, I didn't realize. You asked me 3 or 4 years ago, is this a thing? I would say I have no idea.
No idea.
But now it's like this network just continuously grows. I'm like, yeah, I know you need this issue. Or you got to go talk to this person. Or you got this, go talk to this person. And it's realizing that we have everything that we need right here in our city, and there's people continuously doing amazing things. And we're just giving them, hey, come sit down and let's just tell people about it.
Look, I have such a because I do what I do, man. I love hearing everybody else. I love hearing about how they grew. Because look, you can learn from anybody.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that's another thing. Just learn, man. Like never stop learning. I learn I've made more mistakes than any human could ever. But you learn from them, and that's sports. Right?
It's
I always
lessons.
say
It's not mistakes. It's lessons.
Yeah, it's just such a I've learned from other businesses that aren't even in my industry. On how, like I said, the guy, one of my main mentors that's taught me about business is Pepper Rutland. He runs an electrical contracting company, right? It has nothing to do with what I do, but just how to run the business, how to grow the business, how to treat your employees. My wife worked there for, 20 years, and she thought it was phenomenal working there. And it's like, well, you want your employees to feel the same way. So how do I, it might have nothing to do with the business, but what incentives do I give my employees? How do I treat my employees for them to want to come here, want to do that? So there's so many things that you can learn from a platform like this about other companies. So, man, what you guys do is great for everybody in this community.
Well, thank you for that, Mac. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Love being here.
Good deal. So glad you came on. Glad we got to share a little bit about Traction. So if anybody's looking for a complex for your kids to go play or learn about sports, be sure to reach out to Mack at Traction. They're going to take good care of y'all. This has been the latest episode of the Patty G Show. We'll catch y'all back here next week. See y'all later.